Hey guys, it's Casey Scheinvold here, and today's video is going to be a quick tutorial on the types of players you want to fill out your roster with in order to make sure you have the best chance of success in the fantasy baseball season. There are a lot of players and a lot of teams in the major leagues, and it can be pretty confusing with regards to who are the best players to select and why. We're going to do a video based on the idea of a 5x5 standard rotisserie league where there are 5 offensive categories and 5 pitching categories that you're competing against the other members of the league in. And so we're going to look at the players that give you the best chance of success. First, and it's kind of obvious, are the players who are studs, the players who stuff all 5 categories on the offensive side of the stat sheet. For example, players who can give you not only a good batting average, but they hit for power, they steal bases, they drive in runs, and they score runs. There aren't a tremendous amount of these 5-star players or 5-tool talents, but it is critical early in a draft or when you're looking at making trades or looking at the waiver wire that you consider the players who fill the most statistics for you to help you win. The fewer players you can use to stuff a particular category, the more depth you have on your bench, the more depth you have on your roster, and the better chance you have at success. So the first one is pretty obvious. Look for those guys who not only steal bags, but drive in runs, hit home runs, and get on base at a good enough clip that their batting average is good. Another thing to consider when you're looking for players is the track record of that player. You would prefer these 5-star guys to have a history of doing that successfully. If they've done it for 2 or 3 years in a row, chances are they're going to keep doing it. If it's somebody who has had some bad years or struggled for a few years and then suddenly puts a good year up there, you have to wonder whether that's sustainable. And so that becomes a risk factor that you have to consider. So on the offensive side, you're looking for guys who can fill the most categories just by themselves. There are some guys who might not steal, but if they hit for average, hit for power, drive in runs, and score runs, they're still filling 4 of those 5 categories. So once you get through those 5-star players that we talk about, then you're looking for guys who fill 4, guys who fill 3, and eventually you get to what we like to call specialists. One of the categories that's always important and always difficult to come by are stolen bases. And so oftentimes on your roster, you'll look for guys who are specialists when it comes to stealing bases. They might not hit for a lot of power. They might not drive in a lot of runs. Ideally, they get on base at a good clip for your batting average and they score runs because they're there to advance around the bases when they're on the base pass. But those are guys who are specialists that you can fill in there. The other categories don't really have specialists because it's just not as pronounced or as necessary on the hitting categories. On the pitching side, same idea, although you can't find 5-star players who fill all 5 categories because typically 2 of those categories are wins and saves. You can't get both. One pitcher gets a win, and then if somebody closes out the game, they get the save. It can't be the same person for both. So you're looking for elite starting pitchers and then elite closers. And what I mean by elite is pitchers, for me, the definition of elite is pitchers who give you really high strikeout totals consistently, because the other categories are typically wins, ERA, and WHIP. Wins, ERA, and WHIP can be pretty variable and vary from month to month, season to season. But strikeouts, if somebody's a good strikeouts pitcher, it tends to stay the whole time. It tends to be something that they're going to do regardless. And if they're striking out a lot of guys, chances are they're keeping their ERA low. Chances are they're going to have a better chance to get wins. And so when I'm targeting pitchers, I'm targeting strikeout totals first. I'm obviously, again, looking at the track record. If you have somebody who for 3 or 4 years has been a really dominant starting pitcher, chances are that's a trend that's going to continue as long as they're not in their older years, older than 35 or 36, when you might see a decline in their pitching ability. When it comes to closers, the same way. You want somebody who has sustained success, somebody who is given the majority of the save chances for their team, and somebody who tends to be a really good strikeout pitcher, because that's oftentimes what is needed for these pitchers in these save situations. They're high leverage, high pressure situations, striking a guy out is the easiest way to get out of trouble. So strikeouts are something I look at, and a consistency of strikeouts. The other thing I look at when I'm looking at all players, this is both offense and defense, the greatest ability a player can have is their ability to stay on the field. You want players who are healthy. Try to minimize the injury risks that you're putting on your team, because it doesn't matter how good he is if he's missing 100 games because of different injuries or 50 games because of different injuries. Then he's just sitting in an IR slot or on your bench and not helping you at all. So make sure when you're looking for players, mitigate the risk by looking for players who don't get injured as often. So a quick recap. You're looking for players who fill as many stats that are required in your league as possible. You're looking for players who have a track record of success and a track record of health. After that, you're analyzing your roster to determine where you're going to need help, where you're going to need those specialists. If you need speed in your roster, you target those guys who are stolen base specialists. They might not play all the time, but you know when they play, they're gonna try to run. They're gonna get steals for you, because it doesn't take a lot of steals on your roster to be that competitive in most standard rotisserie leagues. So if you have a few guys who can get you, 20 or 30 stolen bases on your roster, you're going to be middle to top half of the pack. If you get lucky and you get some of those elite base stealers, chances are you can win your category. On the pitching side, I look for strikeouts. I think strikeouts are the best predictor of a pitcher's talent and a pitcher's ability to be successful for you in fantasy. If they are good strikeout pitchers, chances are their ERA is going to get down because they strike out batters instead of letting them score. They're going to give their team chances for wins, which means your win total could go up. And on the relief pitching side, their saves are going to be greater because strikeouts are the easiest way to prevent runs. So health, predictability, a record of success, and then look for the guys who fill your stats as much as possible. If you need any help or have any questions about fantasy baseball, comment below. Click the like button to stay notified, and we will see you out on the field.